Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking into a pretty concerning situation involving two young German travelers and their attempt to enter the U.S.
Yeah, we've got this news report detailing their experience, and we really want to unpack what happened, maybe why, and what this could signal for international travel.
Exactly. The source is a news article about Charlotte Pohl, she's 19, and Maria Lepere, who's 18, both from Germany.
Right, and they were just out of high school on this big around-the-world trip. Pretty ambitious. They'd already been to New Zealand and Thailand, apparently without any issues.
That sounds like quite the adventure. So they arrive in Honolulu. This was back on March 18th, and they had approved ESTAs. The plan was just to travel around the Hawaiian Islands.
Seems straightforward, yeah. But that's not quite how it went down. Despite having that approved ESTA, despite their previous travels, they were actually detained and then denied entry.
Wow, okay, so they land, they've got the paperwork sorted, or so they thought. What went wrong? What happened at the border?
Well, the report says they were pulled aside and interrogated for hours. Hours.
That sounds intense right from the start.
It does. And apparently, it escalated. They alleged they were subjected to body scans, even strip searches.
Really?
Yeah. And ultimately, the officials decided not to honor their estes. They were told they were being deported.
Deported. Okay, but why? What reason did the border officials give for this level of scrutiny?
The main thing mentioned in the article is that the officials found their trip suspicious. And the key reason for that suspicion, they hadn't booked places to stay for their entire 5-week trip in Hawaii.
5 weeks is a long time, but they said they wanted to be spontaneous, right? Travel flexibly, like they apparently did in Thailand and New Zealand?
That was their explanation.
Yeah.
It sounds, like typical backpacking. Decide where to go next on the fly.
Makes sense. But the officials didn't see it that way.
Apparently not. From a border control perspective, sometimes not having fixed accommodation for a long stay can raise flags about, well, maybe intentions to overstay or work illegally, though the article doesn't spell out the exact worry here. It just says suspicious.
So this suspicion led to detention. What was that actually like for them?
According to their account, it was pretty grim. They say they were handcuffed, made to wear green prison uniforms,
Prison uniforms.
and placed in a holding cell. They claim it was with other detainees, some apparently facing serious criminal charges.
That must have been terrifying for two young women.
Absolutely. They also described the conditions spending the night on moldy mattresses in a freezing cold cell.
Just awful. So how did it end? How did they get out of there?
Well, the next day, March 19th, they were taken back to the airport, still in handcuffs, according to the report.
And sent straight back to Germany.
They requested to go to Tokyo first, maybe to continue their trip elsewhere. But eventually, yes, they ended up back in Germany. Took about 3 days, flying via Tokyo, then Qatar, then Frankfurt, finally back to Rostock.
What a distressing end to that leg of their journey. Was there any official German response?
Yes, the German Foreign Office confirmed they knew about the case, provided consular help. They also put out a reminder, and this is key, that an ESTA of approval isn't actually a guarantee you'll get into the U.S.
Right. The final decision is always made by the CBP officer at the port of entry.
Exactly. ESTA basically just authorizes you to board the plane, or ship bound for the U.S. entry is another hurdle.
And this incident, perhaps others like it, seems to have led Germany to update its travel advice.
It looks that way. Just last month, they updated their U.S. travel advisory. They mentioned turbulent experiences some visitors have had.
Turbulent experiences. Okay.
And the update specifically says now that even having a valid visa or an entry waiver like ESTA doesn't guarantee entry, citing recent detentions of German citizens. It's a pretty explicit warning.
Interesting. Are we seeing any wider impact, maybe on tourism numbers?
Well, the article does mention something interesting. Visitors from Western Europe to the U.S. apparently dropped by 12% in March. That's quite a dip, one of the biggest outside the pandemic years.
12% from Western Europe overall.
Yeah. And specifically for German visitors, the drop was even sharper, over 28% compared to March of the previous year.
Wow, over a quarter drop. Now, we can't say for sure it's because of stories like this one.
No, correlation isn't causation, of course. Could be other factors. But the timing is notable, especially with the updated travel advisory. It suggests something might be shifting.
So let's just summarize. We have these two young travelers, Charlotte and Maria. They had approved ESTAs but were denied entry, detained under pretty harsh conditions, and deported. The reason seems to hinge on their lack of pre-booked accommodation, which raised suspicion.
Right. And it starkly highlights that disconnect between having pre-approval like ESTA and actually being granted entry upon arrival.
Definitely. And when you combine this case with Germany changing its official travel warnings and these falling visitor numbers from Europe, it does paint a picture of maybe a more challenging environment for some international travelers heading to the U.S. right now.
It certainly raises questions.
It absolutely does. And it leaves you, the listener, with something to think about. Given this story, given the official warnings, what does being fully prepared for international travel even look like today? How much security does that pre-approved document really give you when you're standing in front of that border official? Something to definitely mull over if you're planning any trips.